Who here has actually married there? Let's get married if we're still single by 40 person, and what's the story? I did. But the age was 30. Friends through high school and went to college apart. Using IM one night, yes, almost 20 years ago, we were chatting. She just had a bad breakup and I was striking out. I said let's get married if we're single at 30. She posted on Facebook that she's single 1 week after her birthday. My birthday was a week later and I sent, "Gee, we're supposed to get married soon. We better go on a date." Married 7 years and 1 kid so far. Edit, we were 20 when we made the promise. I may be a little late to this party, but my wife and I went to high school together and never dated. We were movie buddies and I had a little crush on her. We did make out one time at a party. I was a year ahead of her, and right before I graduated we made a pact to marry each other if we were single in the distant future. Can't remember what that date was, but fast forward 20 years. We reconnected on social media and 2 years later we were married. About 5 years later we were going through some boxes and I found a cheesecake photo of her from 1987 with a note written on the back saying how she can't wait until our wedding day. We had both forgotten about the pact until we found the picture. Then about 6 months ago, my parents cleaned out their attic and gave me a box full of stuff they saved. Inside was a note from my ex in high school, and in the ramblings of teenage angst she mentioned that she had a vision of my now wife and I together. Odd for an ex to say, but we had a good laugh about that. Tomorrow is our 12th anniversary. Thanks for letting us walk down memory lane for our anniversary. Wholesome. Me. We agreed on 30 though. We had dated in high school and into college for 4 years. Life just kind of made us go separate ways, like countries apart. Would occasionally keep in touch throughout our early 20s. Both of us went through multiple bad relationships and made a joke that if we were both single by 30, we would get married. He came home for Easter one year and asked me to go on a date for old time's sake. We made it about 5 minutes into the date before we remembered how much we were missing out on with each other and what we had had. Got married the following year. Now we're 5 years in with a 3-year-old and sitting on the couch, each of us on Reddit, and debated who should post this story. A friend made this proposition to me several years ago. I said, no, even if I'm still alone I will only marry for love. About a decade later we got married. Things are good and we didn't even have to wait until we turned 40. My grandma had jokingly said, she'd ask some guy she knew to marry her the next leap year if they were all single. When it became apparent that he was expecting this to happen she asked my grandpa to marry her instead. Grandma, let's get married next leap year if we're single. Dude, okay. Grandma, ew, no. Cold-blooded, Beatrice. I have family friends who did that. 2 couples who knew each other since college and always stayed close, emotionally and geographically. They made a pact that they would always take care of each other. When one husband and the other's wife died within a year of each other in their early 70s, the 2 remaining spouses moved in together. Not a romantic situation, just a caring one. I made this deal with my best friend about half a year ago. We both can't deal with the idea of being looked after by staff in an old person's home, so we made the agreement to move in with each other. If in the very far future our spouses die, we can look after each other. I've been dating my best friend for 3 months now. I think we are gonna have to come up with a new plan. I did. The age was 35 and we kept bumping down the age to 27. It took us a long time before we got the courage to tell each other that we wanted more than being friends. We were so afraid of the other one not feeling the same way, but life has worked out better than I imagined. We celebrate 9 years together next month. Not married, yet. I knew he had a crush on me for a while, but I wanted to be on my own for a few years. I didn't believe in love at the time and was against it due to childhood trauma. Drunkenly told him one day that we should get married if we were still single by 35, and he said he was down. After a while, I realized that he was the one that was always there for me, did right by me, showed up, would leave food and giant bouquets of my favorite flowers on my doorstep, icky romantic stuff, etc. I could go on. There was no doubt in my mind then that he would treat me right. One day, I decided to spend the night and I haven't slept a single night without him since, except for work trips. I've become immune to his loud, incessant farting, we've gone full weird on each other, we finish each other's sentences, and we can't wait to pop some babies out. This man was not only friend-zoned, he was bro-zoned. Now, I want 10 of his babies and can't imagine my life without him. This thread helped remind me I could have missed out on something great like this had I not given it a chance. I guess there is a hole in the bro-zone layer as well. I had this agreement with a good friend who lived across the country, be each other's fallback plan when I turned 30. Whenever we were both single, we would be on the phone basically all day. However, When one or both of us was dating someone, we would fall out of close contact. This went on for a few years. After a bad breakup for me, he said that he was coming to my part of the country for Christmas to visit family and that maybe we should not date other people between now, September, and then. After that, there was no question of not being together even before he actually arrived at Christmas. That was almost 15 years ago. This year is our 10th wedding anniversary and we have 2 boys. Made a deal with one of my longtime friends that I dated in middle school. I moved, and we kept in touch periodically. While I was in college, we renewed the deal, but then I was in a long-term relationship, and she eventually got into one as well. However, as mine ended, tragically, her BF of 3 years took his life. It really messed her up, as she was the one who found him afterwards. Our friendship never really was the same, and she hasn't dated anyone since, only hookups, but refuses to settle down or try dating again. Our renewal ended this past fall, and I tried seeing if she wanted to meet up since it had been over a decade since we last saw one another. But just seems we've drifted too far apart. That's sad. The good news is the story isn't over yet. Yup. 30 was our agreement, but we found ourselves both single in our 20s and thought, what the heck, let's give it a shot. Dated for nearly 5 years, and we're about to celebrate our 13th anniversary of marriage. My senior year of high school I made a deal like that with a friend of mine. If we were single by 30 we would get married. Well, we ended up getting married 3 years later. In 2013 I messaged this girl on Facebook because I thought she was cute and we hit off the conversation quite well. I have a pretty quirky last name, so she said, let's get married so I can have your last name. Anyway, 7 years later that same girl is now my wife, sleeping peacefully beside me, and I could not be happier. My person ghosted me a few years ago. I just turned 36 today. We were enemies in elementary school, frenemies in middle school, then friends who dated very briefly in high school. Continued to talk and catch up with one another in our 20s. Then nothing. I can't even find him on social media anymore. To disappear so completely after all of these years worries me. Is he in jail? Dead? I'm not looking for him out of some fear that I did something wrong to offend him to make him want to cut me out of his life. I just miss our friendship. And if something has occurred, positive or negative, that motivated him to move on without me in his life, I would like to know. I still look around the internet for him very so often, catfish style, just in case I do ever find him again, so I know that he's alright. I hope you see this someday, Marcus. I miss you. Thank you for watching. Did you like Moogly TTS voice? If so, please subscribe, like, and hit the bell icon so you Mooglies can be entertained every day.